Marcus Webb wiped the grease from his hands and stared at the readings on his datapad. Something was wrong. The numbers flickered on the screen, showing small changes in the ship's power core that shouldn't be there. He frowned and tapped the device, wondering if it was broken. The Harmonious Traverse was the biggest diplomatic ship Marcus had ever seen. It stretched for miles through space, carrying representatives from 17 different alien species. They were all here for the Galactic Council's annual Unity Summit, a fancy name for a big meeting where aliens argued about borders and resources. Marcus was just an engineer, one of 3 humans on board. His job was simple: keep the ship running. He walked down the corridor, his boots making soft sounds on the metal floor. Around him, aliens of all shapes and sizes moved through their daily routines. A crystalline grantine passed by, its body glowing with soft blue light. 2 insect-like velicans chittered to each other in their native language. An avian crew member, all feathers and sharp eyes, nodded at Marcus as it flew past. Marcus had been in space for 5 years now, ever since he left the Mars colonies. He was used to aliens. What he wasn't used to was this feeling in his gut that something bad was coming. He found Chief Engineer Mormac in the main engineering bay. The Grantine's crystalline body pulsed with different colors as it worked on a control panel. Mormac was old, experienced, and very proud of Grantine technology. "Chief," Marcus said, holding up his datapad, "I'm seeing some strange readings from the antimatter core. Small fluctuations in the containment field." Mormac's body flashed orange, which Marcus had learned meant annoyance. "Human Webb, Grantine technology does not fail. These fluctuations are within acceptable parameters. Your species worries too much." Marcus wanted to argue, but he knew it was pointless. The Grantine had been building starship cores for thousands of years. Humans had barely been in space for a century. Who was he to question them? "Just thought I should mention it," Marcus said. "Noted and dismissed," Mormac replied, turning back to its work. Marcus left the engineering bay and decided to take a walk. The diplomatic sessions wouldn't start for another hour, and he had time to kill. He found himself near the education wing, a section of the ship where the diplomats' children stayed during the boring adult meetings. The door was open, and Marcus could hear the sound of young voices inside. Curious, he peeked in. The education wing was bright and colorful, with learning stations set up for different species. There were aquatic tanks for the Morellian children, heated rocks for the reptilian Scorthans, and soft nests for the avian young. In the center of the room, a group of 4 young velicans played with building blocks, their small, chitinous bodies clicking as they moved. An adult velican noticed Marcus and approached. Ambassador Threll was tall for his species, with dark green armor plates and wise old eyes. "Engineer Webb," Threll said, his translator device turning his clicks into human words. "You are interested in our young?" "Just curious," Marcus said. "I don't see many kids out here in space." "These are my cubs," Threll said with obvious pride. "They learn while I attend to boring political matters. Come, they enjoy meeting other species." Before Marcus could protest, the 4 young velicans surrounded him. They were small, maybe the size of human 6-year-olds with softer armor than adults. Their eyes were huge and full of wonder. "Are you really a human?" one asked. "Can you really eat almost anything?" another piped up. "Is it true humans feel pain but keep moving anyway?" a third asked. Marcus laughed. "Yes, yes, and unfortunately yes. We're pretty tough, I guess." "Fascinating," the smallest cub said. "Father says humans are strange because they do illogical things." "That's probably true," Marcus admitted. Ambassador Threll made a clicking sound that might have been laughter. "Pay them no mind, engineer. They are at the age where everything is a question. I sometimes wonder if bringing them was wise, but they learn so much from experiencing different cultures." Marcus spent a few more minutes with the cubs, answering their strange questions about human biology and culture. When he finally left, he felt lighter somehow. Kids were kids, no matter what species they were. The rest of the day passed slowly. Marcus attended to his duties, checking systems and running diagnostics. The diplomatic sessions began in the main hall, with ambassadors from each species taking turns to speak. Marcus watched from the engineering station on his data pad. It was boring stuff, mostly arguing about who owned which asteroid belt or trading route. Humans were new to all this. Earth had only joined the Galactic Council 10 years ago. Most of the older species still saw humans as children playing at politics. Marcus didn't care much about politics anyway. He just wanted to keep the ship running and get everyone home safely. That evening, Marcus sat in his small quarters and recorded a message to his sister back on Earth. She still lived in the Mars colonies, working as a doctor. "Hey, Sarah," he said to the camera. "Another day in the big empty. The summit is going fine, lots of boring speeches. I met some Velikan kids today. Cute little things. They reminded me of—" He paused, not wanting to finish that thought. They reminded him of the colony children he couldn't save when he was younger, when the habitat failed and people died because the engineers ignored the warning signs. "Anyway," he continued, "I've been seeing some weird readings from the ship's core. Probably nothing. The chief says I worry too much. Maybe he's right. Maybe that's just a human thing." He ended the recording and sent it off. It would take weeks to reach Earth, but it felt good to talk to someone from home. Marcus lay down on his bunk and stared at the ceiling. The ship hummed around him, a constant sound he'd grown used to. Somewhere in that hum, though, he heard something off, a tiny vibration that shouldn't be there. He closed his eyes and tried to sleep. Tomorrow would be another day of maintenance and boring diplomatic sessions. Everything would be fine. Everything had to be fine. But deep in the ship's core, in the heart of the antimatter containment system, microscopic cracks were spreading through the magnetic field generators. The fluctuations Marcus had noticed were growing, and in the cold mathematics of physics, once a cascade failure began, there was no stopping it. Marcus didn't know it yet, but in less than 24 hours, he would face a choice that would change the galaxy forever. The formal dinner was in full swing when the lights flickered. Marcus was sitting at the human table in the grand dining hall, picking at something that was supposed to be vegetable, but tasted like rubber. Around him, hundreds of aliens from different species ate their own specialized foods. The Myrelians floated in their water globes, absorbing nutrients. The Grantines simply sat still, absorbing energy from the light fixtures. The avians pecked at protein cubes. Then everything went dark for 3 seconds. When the lights came back on, they were dimmer. The gravity felt wrong, too, like Marcus was suddenly a few pounds lighter. An alarm began to wail, high and sharp, before cutting off abruptly. The dining hall erupted in confused chatter. Captain Genthor, an avian with beautiful red and gold feathers, stood up from the head table. His translator carried his voice across the room. "Remain calm. This is a minor technical issue. Please continue your meal." But Marcus was already running. His datapad was buzzing with emergency alerts. All engineering personnel were needed immediately. He reached the engineering bay in less than 2 minutes, his heart pounding. The scene inside was chaos. Mormac and a dozen other engineers crowded around the main control panel. Warning lights flashed red across every screen. "What's happening?" Marcus demanded. Mormac's crystalline body was flashing red and yellow rapidly, colors Marcus had never seen before. "The antimatter containment field, it's failing." Marcus felt ice in his stomach. "The fluctuations I reported?" "We're not within acceptable parameters," Mormac admitted, its voice shaking. "The cascade has begun. We have perhaps 1 hour before total containment collapse." 1 hour. If the antimatter core lost containment completely, the explosion would be bigger than most stars. Everyone on the ship would die instantly. "Options?" Marcus asked, pushing between two other engineers to see the readouts. "We are attempting to stabilize the magnetic field," a thin, insect-like engineer said. "Standard protocol requires a complete system restart, but that takes 45 minutes. "Too long," Marcus said, his eyes scanning the data. "Look, if we vent plasma through the secondary manifolds, we could reduce the pressure on the containment field. Buy us more time." Mormac turned its massive body toward him. "That procedure is not in the safety protocols. The risk of a feedback loop is 37%. "The risk of doing nothing is 100% death," Marcus shot back. Before Mormac could respond, the ship shuddered. This wasn't a small tremor. The entire vessel groaned like a living thing in pain. Marcus grabbed onto a railing as the floor tilted under his feet. Alarms screamed throughout the ship. "Hull breaches in sections 7 through 12, someone shouted. "Magnetic containment at 40% and dropping." Captain Genthor's voice came over the intercom system. "All hands, this is the captain. Prepare for emergency evacuation. All personnel report to your assigned escape pods. This is not a drill." The engineering bay emptied fast. Aliens ran for the exits, following their training. Only Marcus and Mormac remained at the controls. "You should go," Mormac said quietly. "I am the chief. I must stay and try to fix this." "I'm staying too," Marcus said. "Two heads are better than one, right?" Mormac made a sound like grinding glass, which might have been laughter or crying. "You humans, so illogical." They worked together, trying everything they could think of. Rerouting power, adjusting magnetic field generators, venting excess energy. Nothing worked. The core was dying, and it would take the ship with it. Marcus's datapad showed a timer. 28 minutes until catastrophic failure. "We need to go," Mormac finally said. "There is nothing more we can do. The ship is lost." They ran through the corridors toward the nearest evacuation point. Around them, the ship was tearing itself apart. Explosions echoed through the walls. Lights sparked and died. Emergency bulkheads slammed down, cutting off damaged sections. The evacuation was orderly. Each species moved in efficient lines toward their assigned escape pods. No pushing, no panic. Just calm, logical movement toward survival. It was beautiful, in a way, Marcus thought. Each alien following their training perfectly. He was in the corridor leading to Evacuation Bay 3 when he heard it. A sound that made him stop dead in his tracks. It was distant, muffled by walls and distance, but unmistakable. The high-pitched sound of children crying, scared children. Marcus turned, looking back down the corridor he'd just come from. The education wing was in that direction, 3 levels down, past 2 sealed bulkheads. "Move, human!" someone shouted from behind him. A group of Scorthan engineers pushed past, heading for the pods. Marcus looked at his data pad. 23 minutes left. The education wing section was marked in red on the ship's map. Communications were down in that area. The hull breaches had cut off the main power. He thought about Ambassador Threll's cubs, those 4 curious little Velicans who'd asked him about human pain tolerance. Were they trapped down there? Were there other cubs too, from other species? Logic said to keep moving. The caretakers would have gotten the children out. There were protocols for this. The cubs were probably already safe in the escape pods. But Marcus remembered another disaster years ago. The Mars colony where he grew up, where his parents died. The engineers there had followed protocols too. They'd said everything was under control. And then the habitat seals failed, and everyone in sections 1 through 5 died gasping for air. He'd been in section 6. He'd survived. His parents hadn't. Afterward, the investigation found that the warning signs had been there. Small fluctuations in the seal integrity monitors. Nothing major. Within acceptable parameters. Just like the core readings he'd noticed yesterday. "Damn it," Marcus whispered. He turned and ran back, away from the evacuation bay toward the education wing. Behind him, someone shouted, "Where are you going? You're going the wrong way!" Marcus didn't answer. He had 23 minutes to reach the education wing, find the cubs, and get them to safety. The odds weren't good. A smarter person would have kept running toward the escape pods, but Marcus had never been particularly smart. His sister always said he had more heart than sense. He just hoped it would be enough. The corridor ahead was dark. Emergency lights cast everything in red. Another explosion shook the ship and Marcus stumbled, catching himself against the wall. 21 minutes. He ran faster, his boots pounding on the metal floor, heading straight toward the failing core and whatever waited for him in the darkness. Somewhere behind him, the evacuation continued. Hundreds of aliens moving toward safety with calm efficiency. Everyone was running away from the danger. Everyone except the human. Marcus reached the first sealed bulkhead in 3 minutes. The heavy door had slammed shut automatically when the hull breaches started. His datapad showed 18 minutes remaining. The manual override was on the wall, protected by a clear case. Marcus smashed it with his elbow and pulled the lever. Motors groaned as the massive door slowly opened, just wide enough for him to squeeze through. On the other side, the damage was worse. Scorch marks blackened the walls. Exposed wires sparked and hissed. The air tasted like burning metal. Marcus covered his mouth with his sleeve and kept running. His wrist communicator crackled. "This is Captain Genthor to all remaining personnel. Final evacuation in 15 minutes. After that, the pods will launch automatically. If you are not aboard, you will be left behind." 15 minutes. Marcus checked his location. The education wing was still 2 levels down. He found a maintenance shaft and climbed down the ladder fast, his hands slipping on the metal rungs. Halfway down, the ship shuddered again. Marcus lost his grip and fell the last 10 feet, landing hard on his shoulder. Pain shot through his arm, but nothing felt broken. 12 minutes. He limped down another corridor. This one was completely dark except for his datapad's light. The emergency systems had failed here. Water dripped from a burst pipe somewhere. In the distance, metal groaned as the ship's structure bent under stress. Then he heard them. Voices. Small, frightened voices. Marcus ran toward the sound and found the education wing door. It was sealed shut, the control panel dark and dead. He pressed his ear against the metal and heard them clearly now. Multiple voices, cubs from different species, all scared, all crying. "Hello!" Marcus shouted, pounding on the door. "Can anyone hear me?" The crying stopped. Then a small voice answered. "Someone is here! Someone came!" Marcus recognized that voice. One of Threll's cubs. "It's Marcus, the human engineer! I'm going to get you out!" He examined the door. It was designed to seal automatically during emergencies, protecting the cubs inside. But the power failure meant it couldn't open again. The manual release required someone on both sides to operate it at the same time. It was a safety feature, preventing cubs from accidentally opening the door into danger. Right now, that safety feature was a death trap. Marcus keyed his communicator. "This is Webb. I need someone at the education wing, bulkhead Delta 7, immediately." Chief Engineer Mormack's voice came back. "Engineer Webb, we thought you reached the evacuation bay. Your tracking signal disappeared. I'm at the education wing. There are cubs here. The door's sealed and needs a 2-person override to open." Silence on the line. Then, "Webb, that section is being sealed off. Anyone who goes there cannot return to the evacuation bay in time. We have 11 minutes. Then send someone fast." More silence. Marcus could imagine the calculations happening, the time it would take, the odds of survival. "Webb," Mormack said slowly, "I have run the numbers. It is impossible. Even if we send someone now and you successfully evacuate the cubs, there is not enough time to reach the escape pods before they launch." "I don't care about the numbers," Marcus shouted. "Send someone or these kids die." "The logical choice is clear," Mormack said. Its voice sounded sad, which was strange for a crystalline being. 12 juveniles versus one skilled adult engineer. The mathematical value of your life is greater. You should return to the evacuation bay while there is still time. Marcus stared at the sealed door. On the other side, small voices waited. He thought about Ambassador Threll, probably already on an escape pod, thinking his cubs were safe. He thought about all the species represented here, all their different young ones, trapped because nobody had thought to check on them. "No," Marcus said quietly. "I beg your pardon?" "I said no." "I'm not leaving them." Through the door, he heard one of the cubs crying. "My father said someone would come. He promised." Marcus closed his eyes. He saw his parents' faces. He saw the Mars colony children who died because the engineers dismissed the warning signs. He saw every choice that had led him to this moment. "Listen to me carefully," he said to the cubs through the door. "I need you all to be brave. I'm going to get you out, but I need your help. Is there an adult in there with you?" "No," a small voice answered. "The teacher beings left. They said they would come back, but they did not." Of course they didn't. Evacuation protocols. Adults first, then juveniles, ranked by species importance to the Galactic Council. The Valakans were a minor species. Small, politically unimportant. Their cubs were low priority. Marcus felt anger burn through his fear. "Okay. I need one of you to find the manual release panel. It should be by the door, low on the wall. Can you do that?" Sounds of movement. Then, "I found it. It has a red handle." "Perfect. When I count to 3, pull that handle and hold it. Don't let go no matter what. Understand?" "Yes, Engineer Marcus." Marcus found the external manual release. He grabbed the handle with both hands. His datapad showed 8 minutes remaining. "Ready? 1, 2, 3. He pulled. Motors groaned. On the other side, he heard the cubs straining. The door moved half an inch, then stuck. "Keep pulling," Marcus shouted. He pulled harder, his injured shoulder screaming in pain. Sweat ran down his face. The door moved another inch, another. 5 minutes. With a final grinding sound, the door opened enough for small bodies to squeeze through. They came out one by one. 4 young Velicons, 3 tiny Myrelians in portable water globes, 2 fuzzy mammalian cubs Marcus didn't recognize, 1 small reptilian Scorthon, and 3 avian chicks, their feathers still downy and soft. 12 cubs total, all looking at Marcus with wide, scared eyes. "Is everyone okay?" Marcus asked. They nodded. One of Threll's cubs stepped forward. "You came for us. Father said humans were strange, but you came." "Yeah, well," Marcus said, checking his datapad. 4 minutes. "Let's talk about how strange humans are later. Right now, we need to move." He started leading them down the corridor. The cubs followed, the smaller ones helping each other. They moved slower than Marcus wanted, but they moved together. Then the ship's lights turned red. A new alarm began to wail. "Warning!" the ship's automated voice announced. "Core containment failure in 3 minutes. Antimatter cascade imminent. All personnel evacuate immediately." Marcus's communicator erupted with voices. "Webb, get out of there! The pods are launching! It's too late! The communicator went dead as the core's electromagnetic pulse fried the circuits. Marcus looked down at the cubs, at their trusting faces, at the way they held on to each other. 2 minutes. He started to run, pulling the cubs with him, but he knew the truth. They were too far from the evacuation bay, too slow. There was no time. Then the core exploded. The ship bucked like a wounded animal. Marcus grabbed the 2 smallest cubs as the floor tilted violently. The world became fire and noise and chaos. Metal screamed. The ship broke in half, torn apart by forces no structure could withstand. Marcus felt himself flying through the air. He held on to the cubs as hard as he could. His back slammed into something solid. Pain exploded through his entire body. Then everything went dark. Marcus woke to pain and darkness. His head throbbed. His right leg was pinned under something heavy. Every breath hurt. He tried to move and gasped as agony shot through his ribs. "Engineer Marcus?" The voice was small and scared. Marcus forced his eyes open. Emergency lights flickered weakly, casting red shadows. He saw a small Velican cub staring at him with worried eyes. "I'm okay," Marcus lied. "Are you hurt?" "No. You protected us when the ship broke. You held us." Memory came back in pieces. The explosion. The ship tearing apart, grabbing the cubs and shielding them with his body as they tumbled through the corridor. Marcus looked around. They were in some kind of storage room. Emergency bulkheads had sealed them off from the rest of the ship. Debris was everywhere. And lying unconscious against the far wall was Plix, a small mammalian engineer Marcus knew from the maintenance crew. "Plix!" Marcus called out. The small alien stirred and groaned. Its large eyes opened. "Webb? What? Where are we?" "Trapped. The ship broke in half. How many cubs made it?" Together they counted. All 12 cubs were here, scared but alive. The portable water globes for the Myrelians had cracked but were still holding. One of the avian chicks had a hurt wing. Otherwise, they were unhurt. Marcus tried to move his leg again. Pain made his vision go black for a moment. When it cleared, he saw blood. His leg was badly crushed under a support beam. His datapad was damaged but still working. He checked the readings and felt his heart sink. They were in the aft section of the ship. When the core exploded, it had broken the harmonious traverse into 2 pieces. The forward section, where the evacuation bay and escape pods were, had separated and drifted away. They were in the rear section, alone. Life support showed 40 minutes remaining. Marcus tried his communicator. Surprisingly, it still worked. He switched to emergency frequencies. "This is Engineer Marcus Webb. Is anyone receiving?" Static. Then, "Webb! This is Captain Genthor. Thank the stars. We feared you were dead." Relief flooded through Marcus. "Captain, what's your status?" "We evacuated successfully. The escape pods are safely away from the explosion. We are monitoring the situation. What is your status?" Marcus looked at the cubs huddled together, at Plix checking them for injuries, at his trapped leg. "I'm in the aft section with 12 cubs and Engineer Plix. We're sealed in a storage room. Life support shows 40 minutes. Silence. Then another voice came on. Ambassador Threll, his translator making his clicks sound broken with emotion. "My cubs? You found my cubs?" "All 4, Ambassador. They're scared but alive." Marcus heard a sound like crying, though he wasn't sure Velicans could cry. "You went back. Everyone else evacuated, but you went back for them." "Yeah, well, couldn't leave kids behind." Captain Genthor spoke again. "Webb, we are running calculations. The nearest planet is too far. We cannot reach you before your life support fails. I am sorry." "I understand, Captain." Plix moved closer to Marcus. The small engineer had fully woken now and was checking the room. "Webb, there is an emergency escape pod here. I see it in the corner behind the debris." Marcus's heart jumped. "Captain, did you hear that? There's a pod here." "Checking the schematics," the captain said. "Yes, I see it. Storage Bay 17 has a single-occupant emergency pod." "Single occupant?" Marcus said. "Affirmative. Designed for 4 beings of standard size. You have 14 beings present." The math was simple and brutal. The pod wouldn't hold everyone, not even close. Plix understood too. The small engineer looked at Marcus with knowing eyes. "The pod needs manual launch from outside. Someone must stay to operate the external release mechanism and seal the door properly." "How long does the launch sequence take?" Marcus asked. 90 seconds, Plix said quietly. Marcus looked at his datapad. 35 minutes of life support. 90 seconds to launch the pod. Then whoever stayed behind would have about 33 minutes to live before the air ran out or the next explosion finished destroying this section. Ambassador Threll's voice came through the communicator, breaking. Human Marcus Webb, I do not understand your species. This makes no logical sense. We are not related by blood. My cubs have no value to your genetic line. Why did you come back for them? Marcus looked at the 4 young Velicans, at the 3 tiny Myrelians, at all the small, scared faces watching him. Because they're kids, Marcus said simply. That's all the reason I need. But you will die. Probably. This is illogical. Marcus laughed, though it hurt. Yeah, humans are pretty bad at logic sometimes. We run into burning buildings to save strangers. We throw ourselves on grenades to protect people we just met. We do stupid, illogical things because sometimes... He paused, looking at the cubs. Sometimes the math doesn't matter. Sometimes you just have to do what's right. Plix began clearing debris from the pod. Marcus tried to help, but couldn't move. His leg was completely trapped. Webb, Plix said softly, I will stay. You should go with the cubs. Can't. Look at my leg, I'm not going anywhere. Besides, you're smaller. You'll fit in the pod with them better. This is not fair. Life rarely is, Plix. Together, they loaded the cubs into the pod. It was tight, but they all fit if the smallest ones sat on laps. The Morellians' water globes took up extra space, but they managed. Marcus worked his way to the external release controls, dragging his crushed leg behind him. Every movement was agony, but he gritted his teeth and kept going. The smallest Velicon cub, the one who had asked about human pain tolerance, pressed its small claw against the pod window. Will you die, Engineer Marcus? Marcus looked at that small face. He thought about lying, but cubs deserved honesty. Yeah, kiddo, probably, but you won't, and that's what matters. Why? Because you're going to grow up. You're going to see amazing things and do amazing things. You're going to make your father proud, and maybe, just maybe, you'll remember the human who thought you were worth saving. Tears ran down Marcus's face, though he wasn't sure when he'd started crying. His data pad showed 28 minutes of air left. He sealed the pod door and moved to the launch controls. Plix watched him through the window, the small engineer's face sad but accepting. Plix, Marcus said, tell them this wasn't tragic. Tell them I chose this. Tell them it mattered. I will, Plix promised. Marcus grabbed the launch lever with both hands. The mechanism was damaged and needed to be held in place for the full 90 seconds. His data pad showed 26 minutes of life support. He looked at the cubs one last time, at their faces pressed against the window, at the future he was giving them. Tell your father, Marcus said to the Velican cubs, that you're the bravest little bugs I ever met. He pulled the lever. The launch sequence began. The pod hummed as it powered up. 90 seconds. Marcus held the lever steady, his arms shaking from the effort. A support beam fell nearby, missing him by inches. The ship groaned and twisted. His data pad showed 23 minutes, 60 seconds. Marcus thought about his sister, about his parents, about the Mars colony, about every choice that led him here. 30 seconds. The cubs watched him. He smiled at them, hoping they'd remember that smile, hoping they'd understand someday. 10 seconds. Goodbye, Marcus whispered. The pod launched with a burst of compressed air. It shot away from the dying ship, carrying 12 cubs and 1 small engineer toward the safety of the escape pod fleet. Marcus collapsed against the wall. His data pad showed 20 minutes of air remaining. He closed his eyes. At least the kids were safe. Marcus sat against the cold wall and waited to die. His leg hurt less now, which probably wasn't a good sign. The room was getting colder. His data pad showed 15 minutes of air remaining. He could already feel his breathing getting harder. He thought about Earth, about blue skies and real sunlight, about his sister's laugh, about the Mars colonies where he grew up, red dust and dome cities. He thought about the cubs. At least they were safe. That had to count for something. His eyes drifted closed. The pain was fading. Everything was fading. Then he heard something, a rumbling sound that wasn't another explosion. It was coming from outside the ship. Marcus forced his eyes open. Through a small viewport, he saw lights. Moving lights. Not the cold stars, but warm engine lights. His communicator crackled to life. "Webb, this is Captain Genthor. Hold on. We are coming." Marcus's brain felt fuzzy. He wasn't sure if he was hearing correctly. "Captain? You're coming back?" "Affirmative. All escape pods are returning to your location." That's crazy. You'll all die. There's not enough time to dock and get me out. You'll be caught in the next explosion." "Correct. Logically, we should flee and save ourselves." Another voice came on. Ambassador Threll. "But a human today taught us something, Engineer Webb. He taught us that logic is not the only mathematics that matters." More voices joined in. Aliens from a dozen different species. "You saved my chick when you could have saved yourself. You went back when everyone else ran away. You valued our young over your own life." Marcus felt tears on his face again. "You don't understand. I'm just one person. You're hundreds of people. The math doesn't work." "The math never works," Plix's voice said. "That is what makes it human. That is what makes it right." Through the viewport, Marcus watched as the escape pods came closer. Not just one or two. All of them. Every single pod that had launched was returning, coming back to the dangerous wreck of a ship, coming back for one trapped human who had done something illogical. The pods docked with the aft section. Marcus heard cutting tools, voices, footsteps running through corridors. Then the storage room door exploded inward. Ambassador Threll was the first through, followed by Mormac and a dozen other crew members. They carried cutting equipment and emergency oxygen. Threll pressed an oxygen mask to Marcus's face. Sweet, clean air filled his lungs. "Breathe, human. We have you." Mormac's crystalline body glowed bright as it worked on the beam trapping Marcus's leg. "This is highly illogical behavior on our part," the chief engineer said, "but I find I do not care about logic right now." They cut Marcus free and lifted him carefully. Every movement hurt, but he was alive. He was breathing. As they carried him through the corridors, Marcus saw them. All of them. Hundreds of aliens working together to evacuate this dying section of ship. Some held cutting tools, some cleared debris, some guided the way. And in the largest escape pod pressed against the window were 12 small faces. 12 cubs who had seen everything, who had watched the pods return, who had witnessed every species in the Galactic Council deciding that one human life was worth risking their own. They reached the escape pods with minutes to spare. Marcus was loaded into the medical pod, where alien doctors immediately began working on his injuries. Through the viewport, he watched as the aft section of the Harmonious Traverse finally broke apart completely, lost to the void. But everyone was safe. Every crew member, every diplomat, every cub, everyone. 3 weeks later, Marcus woke in a hospital station orbiting a peaceful world. His leg was healed, the alien medical technology doing things human doctors could only dream of. He had 3 new scars, and the doctor said he'd always have a slight limp, but he was alive. Ambassador Threll visited every day with his 4 cubs. On this day, the cubs brought drawings, human-style art, which they'd researched to honor him. Pictures of the ship, of Marcus, of the rescue. They'd labeled them in both Velicon script and human English. "My cubs talk of nothing but you," Threll said. His translator made his click sound warm. "You are their hero." "I'm nobody's hero," Marcus said. "I just did what anyone would do." "No," Threll said firmly. "You did what no one else would do. No Velican would have gone back. Our instinct is survival first, young second. Most species think this way. It is logical. It is how evolution designed us. But not humans? Humans are different. You carry an instinct for protection that overrides self-preservation. It is illogical. It is irrational. It is... Threll paused. It is beautiful. The ambassador presented Marcus with a medal, the Velican Heart of the Hive, a crystal pendant that glowed with inner light. This honor has never been given to an outsider, Threll explained. It represents the heart of our people, given to those who protect the hive at cost to themselves. You are the first non-Velakan to receive it. You will not be the last. We are rewriting our protocols because of you. Plix visited next, accompanied by Captain Genthor and Chief Engineer Mormac. They told Marcus what had happened after the rescue. The Galactic Council had held an emergency session. Every species that was aboard the Harmonious Traverse reported what they had witnessed. A human engineer running toward danger while everyone else ran away. A human who valued young lives, not his own genetic line, over his own survival. They are calling it the human equation, Captain Genthor said, his feathers ruffled with what might have been pride. A new variable in the mathematics of survival. The value of protecting those who cannot protect themselves, regardless of genetic benefit or logical assessment. Safety protocols are being rewritten across the galaxy, Mormac added. Its crystalline body pulsed with colors Marcus now recognized as happiness. Education wings will always be in the safest sections of ships now. Juveniles have priority evacuation status, regardless of species ranking. We are calling them the Web Protocols. Marcus didn't know what to say. He'd just been trying to save some kids. Now he'd somehow changed galactic law. Weeks turned into months. Marcus recovered fully and was offered a position as a consultant for the Galactic Council, helping to redesign safety systems with human perspectives. He accepted. His sister's messages came regularly from Earth, full of pride and disbelief. His story had spread across human space. He was famous, though he didn't feel like he deserved it. One evening, Marcus stood at an observation deck, watching ships come and go from the station. Plix found him there. "The Cubs ask about you daily," Plix said. "You are a legend to them, to many of us." "I'm just a guy who couldn't leave kids behind," Marcus replied. "No," Plix said gently. "You are what humans are. We understand now why your species, though young and sometimes reckless, deserves to be among the stars. You do not run from death when life needs protecting. It is illogical." "Yeah, it is. It is beautiful," Plix continued. "It is human." Marcus watched a new diplomatic vessel depart. It was built with the new safety standards. The education wing was in the center, surrounded by triple-reinforced hull. Emergency pods were positioned every 50 meters, a dozen new safety features, all inspired by one disaster. His sister's latest message played on his datapad. "I heard what you did, Marcus. Mom and Dad would be proud. Hell, I'm proud. You're a hero. Come home soon." Marcus thought about going home, back to Earth, or maybe the Mars colonies, but he looked at the galaxy spread before him and realized something. This was his home now. Out here, among the stars, among species learning from each other. "You know what's funny?" Marcus said to Plix. "I was just an engineer. I fixed things. That's all I wanted to do. Fix things and keep people safe." "And you did," Plix said, "in the most important way possible. You fixed us. You taught us that survival is not just about logic. It is also about compassion, about protecting the young, the weak, the ones who cannot protect themselves." "The human equation," Marcus murmured. "Yes, we have much to learn from your species. But that is a good thing. The galaxy is safer for your presence." Marcus smiled. His legs still ached sometimes, reminding him of that day. But it was a good kind of pain, the kind that meant something. 50 years later, long after Marcus had retired and returned to Earth, the Galactic Council archives updated their records on the Terran integration period. The entry read, The web protocols, established in the aftermath of the Harmonious Traverse disaster, fundamentally changed galactic civilization. Before human contact, 127 species had no concept of risking adult survival for unrelated young. Now, all 127 have adopted this practice. We do not fully understand the human capacity for self-sacrifice, but we have learned its value. The galaxy is safer, kinder, and more compassionate for their presence. Though we may never match their particular madness, we are grateful for the lessons they taught us. Humanity showed us that logic alone does not make a civilization great. Sometimes the most illogical choice is the most right one. And in classrooms across a dozen worlds, young beings of every species learned about the human who ran toward danger when everyone else ran away. They learned about Marcus Webb, and they learned what it meant to be brave. Not the absence of fear, not the cold calculation of odds, but the simple human truth that some things matter more than survival. Some things are worth dying for, like cubs in danger, like children who need help, like the future of species not your own. That was the human equation. That was what humanity taught the stars.